Welcome back to Southpaw Picks, and you're here with your host Charles, and we are coming back to you with another breakdown after the week hiatus we had. A little Bellator, a little EFC. You know, I dabbled here, had a little three-teamer I hit on Bellator. Mixed up a little EFC. I kind of wish I just loaded up heavy on Rashad Evans. I felt that was a good plus money line on him, but we'll get into that another time in the future. After watching EFC and seeing how the Bellator breakdown really went as a dry run, we'll probably incorporate that in these off weeks if the UFC has another off week. But anyways, back to the task at hand. We are coming at you again with UFC Fight Night, Hermansson versus Strickland. Love the main event. Love the card. We got 13 bouts. As of now, as we know, things change up throughout the course of the week. I'm going to be giving you my breakdowns, my predictions, and a brief little takes. The Friday show, the post-weigh-in show, is where I finalize the bets and where I post the bet slips. But as of right now, these are just my breakdowns and early reads. I do love almost every fight on this card. I feel like this is one of those occasions where I feel like almost every one of these fights are bettable. Post the last few weeks that we've been dealing with. But without further ado, let's get into the breakdown, and we are going to start off with the first prelim. We got a flyweight bout between Malcolm Gordon and Denise Bondar. Now, both these guys definitely not ranked flyweights. Denise Bondar making his UFC debut, and he's coming in as a minus 260 favorite against Malcolm Gordon, who a fellow Canadian. I think he's 1-2 in the UFC in his 3 fights, and not too bad. Not too bad as a prospect. He's had some decent wins, but most notably dropping to Amir Albazi, which is a ranked contender, 12-1. Dropping to Sue Madarji. As we know, he's a pretty good prospect in the flyweight division. We haven't seen a fight in quite some time. And then Francesco Figueiredo, take that as you will. That fight was a lot closer. I found that Malcolm Gordon really used all aspects of his MMA game to get the win here. Now, let's start with this breakdown here. And Denise Bondar, the competition level is very low, right? We're watching him fight and destroy these guys, but the competition level is definitely not what it should be. Coming in with a record like 60-3, you can tell he's been really putting in a lot of work, but he's 29, he's young. At this point now, he hasn't fought since 2020. Was that August of 2020? So he's been out a year at this point. A lot of canceled bouts here with Odia Osborne and Victor Rodriguez. That would have been a steal for him, man. Victor Rodriguez does not belong in the UFC. And over the course of you seeing a lot of finishes. But 7-1 guy, 2-2, 5-3, 18-12. Definitely not your top tier competition in the Professionals Fighters Union. But what we have to come to the conclusion is sometimes with debuting fighters, it's very tricky, right? The jitters, maybe they're really rushing in for a finish. Now, what bothers me about Malcolm Gordon is that his durability is very questionable, right? We've seen him take shots, awkwardly and drop after some straight power jabs. And he's a guy that I really don't trust his chin, even though he may have the speed advantage here in this situation and maybe more of a well-rounded MMA fighter. I just don't think he's the type of guy that's going to be able to give Denise Bondar some trouble. I mean, maybe if, Bondar completely gasses out in that first round, doesn't have any juice, Malcolm Gordon can steal it. Now, Bondar being minus 250, definitely not a play I'd want to be involved with for a UFC debut. I kind of want to see how good he is, right? I kind of want to see. All right, Malcolm Gordon, definitely not like a huge jump up in what he's been facing. If you really look at the traction of his career, this is a step up, but it's not a ginormous step up, 16-3. He's the number 2 bantamweight, which is very interesting. So he's going to be a big guy here. Maybe this might hurt his gas tank a bit. Now, let me just go back here quickly. I know we're running a little long on Bondar, but just to clarify, was that a fly? No, it was a bantamweight. So this is going to be the first time he's dropping to flyweight in what? about 2 fights. Last time he fought at flyweight was 2019. And you wonder if half these pullouts was maybe he wasn't on weight. That's something we're going to have to monitor. Right off the top here, no post weigh-in reads. I'm going to go with Denise Bondar, coming in as the big favorite, looking like the young, impressive prospect. But the weight issue, as far as, fighting a bantamweight, being ranked as a bantamweight and coming down to flyweight, it might be cause to pause if you're trying to load up on him and drop the hammer. Moving on up to the next fight of the prelims. We got a light heavyweight bout between Danilo Marquez versus Jailton Almeida. Now, Jailton Almeida, what a play for me on the Contender Series. Big dog money. He came in there and got it done. Looked phenomenal. Not, wasn't sweating at all. Took the shot, obviously a little weary. Just saw the physique of him. Saw a bit of his track record, how he was consistently in grappling tournaments. If I do remember. Yep. He was doing a whole bunch of grappling tournaments prior to coming here and facing the undefeated Nasruddin Nazaramanov. Sorry, Nasruddin Nazaramanov. And he completely out-grappled him and got him out of there. Now, Danilo Marquez, another high-level grappler. Let's just look through here in some of these grappling tournaments just to make sure they haven't crossed paths at some point. Now, Jailton Almeida was very aggressive. He was very strong. I found it amazing to watch just how persistent he was with the takedowns. And he's going up against another guy here, a bigger guy, 6'6", in Danilo Marquez, as we know, plodding. He's at a reach disadvantage despite having 3 inches in height. And him being a plus 300 dog, this is going to be a grappling match. Danilo Marquez has shown you that he loves to grapple. That's his weakness is the striking. And as I'm looking over the course of his last few fights, he's taking him down consistently. Are we doubting Danilo Marquez a little bit here? Like, Jailton came out there and out-grapple a guy that's not really that active. Like, are we doubting what Danilo Marquez could do? And at that plus 300 price tag, I think you guys should all tread lightly here with Jailton Almeida as a minus 300. Crazy price as a debuter. And sorry, I'm incorrect on that minus 300. He's a minus 400 on his debut. Denise Bondar minus 250 debut. Jailton Almeida minus 400 debut. It just sounds like it could be an obvious upset to someone who's not involved, right? Someone like me. I can't bet on Jailton at that price. Worth a sprinkle on Marquez. Maybe by decision, because it's going to be a bunch of grappling. You think either one of these guys are going to submit each other? We'll have to wait and see, but definitely a no bet in that regard. Moving on down, here we got Alexis Davis versus Julijya Stoliarenko. Now, Alexis Davis actually, she took some money from me recently. I had, Sabina Mazo in a fight with her. And the fight was going the way it was planned. Sabina was peppering her with the jabs, but she stayed committed to that leg kick. Sabina just left that leg out there to just get kicked over and over and over again. And Alexis Davis's toughness really shone through there and, pretty much out-veteran the younger fighter here. Then she faced Pannie Kianzad. I had Pannie Kianzad. Again, I had to bet against her after she took some money from me, and I got it back here. Now, we're at a rubber match with me and Alexis Davis, right? And Stoliarenko is the girl I have to consider here for that matchup. So that win Alexis Davis had was against Sabina, who's a flyweight that went up. So I want to throw that out. I want to throw that out there. I thought Sabina would be able to handle it. Definitely not. Now, Julijya here, she's fighting Yana Kunitskaya, ranked bantamweight. Julian, not ranked, but pretty tough customer. And then if you look at the course of these years, she was coming off a 5-fight win streak here in these last 2 years, just with armbar. Now, and they have a similar loss, obviously, to Pannie Kianzad, but this was at featherweight in this specific Ultimate Fighter here. So we got the younger girl here in Julijya Stoliarenko, right? Much younger. I'm going to say she's the improving fighter. She had a tough outing. I feel like there's a lot of doubt going on here. But I just don't see Alexis Davis really leg kicking Julijya because she's not here to leg kick. She wants it to be a real mucky and a bit of a dog fight, cage control. She's definitely going to be searching to grapple. And Alexis Davis is probably going to invite that too because she's a bit of a grappler in her own right? She's got quite a bit of submission victories on her record if we look at it here. She's got her own fair share of arm bars and rear naked chokes. But it looks like she's most recently decision fighter or she's getting finished, right? So, long story short here. I think Julijya is a dog we all should keep our eyes on here. I feel like a lot of people are writing her off. The price isn't as big as you would assume. So that goes to show that there is some money coming on the back end here. And at plus 180, you got to love it, man. She's got the height advantage. She's got the reach advantage. She's also a grappler. She's the younger fighter here. Lithuania has nothing to do with it. But, I actually like Julijya here for the upset. In a real gutty performance. Bloody. Both these girls could take a bunch of damage. And I'm going to go with Julijya Stoliarenko for the win. And obviously we'll revisit that once the weigh-ins so I can really see them size up. As Tapology sometimes, not always their metrics are accurate. Close enough, but accurate. I feel like, from what I understand, that these fighters can actually upload some of the information. So in some cases, maybe they're going to fringe on some things. But moving on down here to a welterweight fight between Jason Witt, the Vanilla Gorilla, versus Phillip Rowe, the Fresh Prince, fighting out of Fusion XL. We got a Glory MMA guy here. Just off the bat, let's just be clear here. We got a 6'3" guy, 5'10" guy, and 11-inch reach advantage. The thing is, Jason Witt is not a striker. He's going to be looking to close the distance. I taped this fight quite a bit. This is one of the fights I can say I really dedicated a lot of early time to tape study here. And, pre-tape, I was like, Phillip Rowe, 11 inches of reach. Jason Witt, questionable chin. But then you really watch how some of these fights unfold. And Phillip Rowe, as much as you could walk into a punch and get hurt, it's not necessarily devastating power off the bat. So Jason Witt loses this from staying in that danger zone where he's not close enough to shoot, and he maybe throws a naked leg kick and gets hit with a right cross. And then at that point, we'd have to see what goes on with his chin, right? Probably a KO. That's a scenario that I can see here. The other scenario I can see is that Phillip Rowe's not really that physically strong. And I would say Jason Witt looks like a very strong and capable guy. He's got good reaps on the legs. He's got good takedowns, blast doubles. My worry here for Rowe is if Witt gets on top of him, just how he's going to feel from the bottom position, because Jason Witt has some pretty good top pressure. He's a big guy. He's a rustler, and just the slender build on Phillip Rowe is causing some concern to me. He was getting out-muscled against Luis Koski, and really and truly, if you want to, and this is Luis Koski coming off like a bad back injury, he really working really hard. And an inexperienced fighter, right? He was like 7-2, I believe. And you're facing a guy here with, 25 fights. And James Krause in the corner. I do feel like Jason Witt, there's an easy pass victory here. As far as the cage being smaller and Jason Witt being able to close the distance. It's just that danger zone of that 11-inch in reach. If he walks into those crosses, it's going to hurt him. But if he doesn't, if Phillip Rowe is having a difficult time tracking him and just keeping him off him, Jason Witt's going to win. His top control is good enough to keep Rowe on the floor. And you see Rowe throw up all these little triangles, but then you see him in a lot of positions just get caught up physically in his torso and with his leg placement that he's a little too long to actually do some stuff, especially on shorter guys. Is he good at defending off the cage? I agree. But the strength of Jason Witt, I feel like, is such a big factor here. And I could see Jason Witt winning via ground and pound now. I want to see them at the scales. That's really where I finalize some things. But very, very, very close fight. Don't let it fool you. You're looking at the 11 inches reach. You're thinking, well, how? Well, Phillip Rowe gives people opportunities. He kind of, he just throws one out there. He's not really 1-2 in with a counter, right? He's just 1-2, 1-2. That's kind of easy to time if you're a really good wrestler. Duck under the shot, pick him up, slam him down, and then really force Phillip Rowe to work. So shocking here. I'm gonna go with Jason Witt. I just don't think Phillip Rowe is as special as his metrics show you. With the height and the reach. And his last one, he missed weight by 3 pounds. So he was coming in extra heavy. We'll see what happens when he cuts the full amount of weight. We've seen Phillip Rowe rocked in a lot of fights, just like we've seen Jason Witt. And at that minus 160 price tag, I'd rather take the dog here. So I'm going with Jason Witt. And I think he wins a unanimous decision or he gets a late finish on Phillip Rowe. Moving on down here, we got a middleweight bout, another fight that I, just been taping. Marc-Andre Barriault versus Chidi Njokuani, or Njokuani, sorry. What a fight here. I'm actually very, very excited for this. We got two decent-sized guys, 6'3", 6'1". Once again, Chidi coming in with a reach advantage over a grappler. I can't even say a grappler, just a dog. Marc-Andre Barriault, power bar, he's a dog. He stays in your face, continues to work nonstop with the rights, the lefts. He's got a chin, he's got a gas tank, and he's not Mario Souza. Now, I watched that fight with Mario Souza, and yes, Chidi looked good, but Mario Souza with the nut shots and the vibe of the fight was kind of tarnished, right? The vibe of the fight was kind of tarnished in that regard. So when you come down to the bones of it, can we really take that fight seriously? There was a cup shots that we had Mario Souza not worrying about the cup shots no more, just throwing knees and not being able to use his tools, pulling guard. It was a pretty bad performance, honestly, from Mario Souza. Not so much a great performance for Chidi, but he gets the victory, he gets the contract. I think it stops here. I think Marc-Andre is just a bigger individual, much bigger, much stronger, going to be able to press him up against the cage. And I feel like he's tough enough to really avoid getting hit with Chidi's, his leg kicks and his straight down strikes. He's very Muay Thai-esque. It's not like he's coming with Israel, strike feints. His strike feints are just hip, shoulder. Like, it's pretty basic. I would imagine Marc-Andre has seen guys like this in his gym, and I imagine Chidi ain't seeing nobody like Marc-Andre Barriault in his gym. Now, Barriault also was a bigger guy, so this is a really big dude, and obviously the speed advantage is going to be for Chidi, but this is the small apex. There's not that much room, and Chidi's not even that bouncy on his feet. He's pretty stationary. I think Marc-Andre is going to be able to push him up against the cage, get him down if he wants to, and just stay on him and gas him out. Put that power bar pressure on him. I'm actually not a huge fan of Marc-Andre's style, but I like the results. He has worn down everybody he's fought. Even the fights that he lost in decisions, he wasn't getting blown out. These were very, very close contests that, he didn't get the nod, but his style from fight to fight, he's getting so much better. Marc-Andre Barriault, I think he gets the finish here against Chidi. Kind of just like how you saw Njokuani's brother just get dominated in EFC. I think it's going to be something very similar. Clearly, that type of technique isn't being worked in their gym, right? And it's almost like a family gym they're working at here. Marc-Andre Barriault, and I think he can finish this fight, but I will take decision. Moving on up here, we got a featherweight bout. Now, we're going right into the fights that I did the most pre-tape study on, and we got Hakeem Dawodu versus Mike Trizano, or Dawodu versus Mike Trizano here. And obviously Hakeem coming off the shoulder injury. Obviously Hakeem coming off a tough fight with Movsar Evloev, which is my guy. Another split decision with Zabir Tugagov. And as much as I like Hakeem, I was actually looking through his record here, man. A lot of split decisions, right? A lot of these fights could have gone the opposite way in some scenarios, right? I mean, hell, if he's got majority of them if you look at it, right? All three, he's won the 3 split decisions, but if he goes one out of those 2, it's not looking that impressive. Now, Zabir Tugagov here is a wrestler, all right? Mosvar wrestler. Guys that are primarily trying to take him down. Kyle Botniak trying to take him down. Now, the one striker I would say he really had to face here was this Hori guy. And it was a pretty good fight. He was really getting... he was really having trouble tracking him in the first part of that fight, but the movement eventually started to slow down. Kind of reminded me of like Koji Horiguchi. Just the in and out movement. He looked very good, and it looked the same way with Sergio Pettis, just the stalking and the chasing. But he eventually got him. Eventually got him in the exchanges and put him out of there. Hakeem is mean. I like his clinch knees. I like how vicious he's in the clinch. For me, though, I find the volume is low. Now, I'm in this point in my mind where I'm thinking, is the volume low against these guys that are grapplers that he feels that maybe he doesn't want to open up against? But then even if the other striker he faced that he finished was somebody that really wanted to stay on the back end, so he was kind of able to press and just throw whatever he wanted to throw. In all Mike Trizano's fights, he doesn't take a back foot, right? He doesn't take a back step. He completely pressures forward and controls the center of the octagon. Hakeem Dawodu does the exact same thing. He controls the center of the octagon here. So, to me, it's very interesting how this fight is going to unfold because both guys don't take a step back. It's an apex here. But if I have to say, I love the feints on Mike Trizano. I feel he does he's very good with the feints. I feel like he's very good with his pressure as far as mixing up the attacks. I find that Hakeem throws a leg kick, he throws a right hand, but he's very Muay Thai centric. It's a very limited game he has, right? And he's 30 years old. We've seen a lot more of Hakeem than we've seen of Mike Trizano now. Mike Trizano has been notoriously underrated on the betting line here, and right here we see via Topology he has a 1-inch reach advantage, but the 3 inches in height is different. I think Hakeem is not the pick here, guys. And I'm going to say it based on a couple things. I'm going to say that Mike Trizano has better volume. Excuse me. I'm going to say Mike Trizano has better training partners. Also, Mike Trizano is not coming off an injury like Hakeem, who's coming off a shoulder injury. And really and truly, what phase is he in right now? I mean, is he just wanting to get back? Is he completely healed? Does he really know how he feels? I seen on his Instagram, he looks very thick. He looks huge. He doesn't look like someone that's going to make 145 anytime soon. But we'll see how this weight cut goes for him. Is he going to even make it? Is this fight even going to happen? But I got to say, Mike Trizano has really impressed me with his striking, the way he mixes up the attack. Both these guys have had difficulty with grapplers, but neither of these guys are going to shoot a takedown. But if I had to assume who would out of either of these guys, I would actually say Mike Trizano, to me, is more likely to go for these takedowns. And just that mere fact that he can mix it up, I know he's durable, I know he's active, I got to go with Mike Trizano as the dog here. Very, very sketchy pick for me, but I just see it. I see something in the tape that's making me scream Mike Trizano. So we're going to have to go with Mike Trizano, and we're going to take Mike Trizano by decision, and that is a plus money dog for you guys, only on Southpaw Picks. Moving on up, we got Miles John versus John Castaneda in an 135-pound bout. Miles John coming out of Fortis. John Castaneda fighting out of Minnesota. Right here, they have the Minnesota Academy. Two pretty experienced bantamweight fighters, I would say. Miles John's one blemish on his record, you'd have to say, is that flying knee by Mario Batista. But flying knees can catch anybody, right? In that fight, I found that the size difference was really giving giving Miles a lot of trouble in closing the distance with Mario Batista. But we're not going to have to deal with that here at the Sexy Mexi in John Castaneda. We got a very compact Russell boxer, good fluid hands, good movement, just like a lot of these bantamweight fighters. Very, very, very talented individuals. Now, to me, Miles John seems very cerebral in there. He seems like he's making reads as the fight goes on. I find at times, and he hasn't faced it yet, that I find at times that if he was to face a guy like a Nathaniel Wood, that Castaneda fought recently. Someone that's just going to completely pump the jab and is always going to do something. May give him some issues here. Now, to me, the the main issue I have with John Castaneda is just that combate circuit. These combate guys are not looking good, man. They're not looking good in the UFC. He was kind of getting walked down by Eddie Wineland and then just kind of threw a nice shot, and Wineland didn't take it well, and he smelt it, and he went after Wineland. But, Miles John's in here with a guy like Mario Batista. He just got knocked out by Trevin Jones, but he was implementing his game plan until Trevin Jones touched that chin. Word to Tamir Valiev, right? But Kevin TV Dad finishes that opponent. Anderson Dos Santos finishes that opponent. He's coming off 2 finishes post-loss. This is a mean guy right now. This is a mean guy. We're coming off a guy who just beat up an Eddie Wineland, who, he's definitely not the guy before can't take the shot. And in my opinion, I felt he was really overwhelming Castaneda until he wasn't, right? It's just a split counter shot. Wineland is wobbly, and then the fight's over. But he was definitely implementing his game plan in there. Now, I got to say, a nice win here against Rojo with the arm triangle. Didn't tape that fight. I will get a chance to go back and look at that tape. But Castaneda, to me, I just feel like this is a tough matchup for him because Miles Johns has the wrestling in his back pocket. He's a wrestler. I believe a state champion at some level, and you can see it. He's probably physically stronger. He's very, very safe as far as the high guard. He got hit with the flying knee, but he stays very safe. High guards, doesn't overexpose himself. He's very cerebral in there. No fans. You got Coach Safe versus a guy from the Academy of Minnesota. I'm a guy who's not for this guys, but I gotta say, Coach Safe Sayud, you better get this done here. This is a great fighter in Miles John with a lot of future. I would say he has a lot of potential. A lot of future potential too, considering he's only 27. He's 12-1, one loss being a flying knee. He was undefeated to that point, and I really, really liked his style. I gotta go with Miles John here. Better camp, better conditioned athlete, the better athlete, smart fighter. He's got to win this fight, right? How does Castaneda beat him? A flying knee? He's not gonna out-wrestle him. He could outstrike him, but just having the grappling in his back pocket, I think Miles Johns could dictate where this fight goes. So I'm going to go with Miles Johns by unanimous decision over John Castaneda. But I will say Castaneda might get around. Just based on the volume, I'm going to say 29-28. Now, that's the headline of the prelim. We are moving on to the main card here. And I don't know how pressed we are for time here, but we will slide through some of these fights a little quicker. We got Julian Erosa versus Steven Peterson. Peterson, pretty basic Russell boxer. Not going to shock you. Those leg kicks, those right hands, those left hooks, right? Not too big of with the jabs, but he's got a decent amount of power in his hands. Julian Erosa leaves that head out there to be hit. Is very worrisome if you have Julian Erosa just because of his durability. But it is very clear after watching both these guys fight, Julian Erosa is leaps and bounds better than Steven Peterson. The price tag is minus 300. It's a little wild. Probably should be a little lower just considering the fact that of Julian Erosa's durability at times. But I think Julian Erosa is going to destroy this guy. Front kicks, nice jabs, probably good grappling transitions taking the bag. I think Julian Erosa is going to walk through Steven Peterson. Does he get the finish? I don't believe so in this regard. I think Steven Peterson could take a lot of damage. And we really look at it, has he ever been finished? No, he has not been finished. Julian Erosa, on the other hand, has definitely had his fair share of finishes, especially in situations where you see, wow, he looks very competitive in here. But look who he's getting finished to. Sue Choi, Julian Erosa, Julio Arce, Grant Dawson, and Devontae Smith, all very legitimate losses there, and running through guys like Sean Woodson, that guy's a dog. Nate Landwehr, Charles Jourdain. I mean, any of these three guys that you see here that Julian Erosa beat, I actually would take over Steven Peterson. I think over the last 10 fights here, I'd take Devontae Smith over Peterson. I'd take Grant Dawson over Peterson. Julian Arce. Don't know too much about AJ Bryant, but Jamal Emmers, I might even take him lack of IQ over Steven Peterson as well. So just to make this short and sweet, Julian Erosa by however he wants. I would be very, very shocked if I saw Steven Peterson somehow get the victory here. But obviously, you know, the chin on Erosa is very questionable. Moving on down here, we got a middleweight bout between Bryan Battle and Tresean Gore. Now, I would admittedly say I haven't watched The Ultimate Fighter. I've seen Bryan Battle fight. I haven't seen Tresean Gore really fight. Gonna do a lot more tape study in this. But to me, what I've seen, a lot of people are, downplaying the fact of Bryan Battle losing fights before he wins. I just appreciate his grit. I appreciate him being able to be a hammer and being able to be a nail. And if you look over the course of these records, I mean, a one-round armbar that 2 years ago, I mean, what a mistake he may have made in that situation. But other than that, this guy continues to win. He wins. He's the bigger guy here. Tresean definitely has the power, but the 3-1 to me is the 3-0. It's very green. Also, not fighting in over close to a year. Coming off a fight that only went 2 rounds. I mean, when fights get extended, as you can see here, it starts to get a little squirrely for him. Split decisions and a lot of inactivity in between a lot of these fights here. So, very tough call here. I would leave this as a wait and see. Hard for me to really give you too much information here, but if I am going to pick this Tresean guy, he's an enigma, right? We don't know really what type of capability he has, what type of shape he is. He's coming off an injury. That's why he couldn't even fight in the last bout. I think Bryan Battle's the guy. He seems like a guy who's active, seems like he's battle-tested, and he seems like if the fight doesn't go his way early, that he can still come back and win. We don't know if Tresean, if the fight's not going his way, is he going to be in his head? Is it not going to work out? Definitely the power advantage is scary, small octagon. But I'm going to go with Bryan Battle here to take the W and prove that he's the real Ultimate Fighter. Moving on down here, love this spot here. Phillip Hawes versus Sam Alvey. Now, man, Phil Hawes has really put us in a position where we're like, oh man, is the chin gonna hold up? Is the chin gonna hold up? Yes, the chin's gonna hold up, man. Come on, Sam Alvey, love the guy. What a competitor. Good boxing, good takedown defense. But come on, he's in the cage right now with a real animal. He's in the cage with a real superior athlete, more powerful, more faster, greater wrestling ability. Much more powerful, if I didn't mention that again. I think Phillip Hawes finishes Sam Alvey in under 3 minutes. I would be absolutely blown away. I really would. I would really say, all right, Phillip, just hang it up. Your chin is dangerous. If Phillip Hawes goes in there and lets Sam Alvey beat him, hang it up, put it away, go be a coach or something, or go hold some water bottles for the real fighters that, have no durability issues, because there shouldn't be a scenario where Sam Alvey gets out of the first round against Phillip Hawes. The cage is close together. The leg kicks are going to destroy Sam Alvey's balance. The right hand is going to be right there. And if he doesn't even want the right hand, he can literally just say, let's engage in the wrestling. Sam Alvey is not going to stop Phillip Hawes from taking him down. Look at me. He's not going to stop him from taking it down. Phil Hawes, Megatron, first round finish. You already know. This is an early read, and I'm sprinkling that. He's going to have to be wobbling on that scale on Friday. Eyes flickering, looking like he needs immediate hydration for me to switch the other way. Anybody picking Sam Alvey, they just like the guy. Phillip Hawes, first round finish. Moving on down the card here, we got welterweight bout between Shavkat Rakhmonov and my boy Carlston Harris. Now, this is going to be the first time I bet against Carlston Harris, and don't wrong me for it. Shavkat, I watched some of those fights, and yeah, the striking really wow you. It's okay. It's tight. It's clean. Is he wowing you with power? No. But his versatility of his ability to me just shows he's well-rounded. He's a well-rounded fighter that has a bunch of confidence. He's finished every opponent. Going up a guy in Carlston Harris who is a decent grappler. Probably, I wouldn't say decent. It's a high-level grappler. Heavy hands, but very awkward in there. I could see a scenario where Shavkat really just gets in on him, gets him tired in the later rounds, and gets this job done. But Carlston is dangerous in that first round. And we've seen over, it's not like Shavkat has been flawless in these 14 fights. We've seen little moments of adversity here, but he seems to always dig deep and figure it out and get through it. And he's been through all types of situations. They haven't been like, it hasn't been a situation where he's just walking into these fights and just walking through people. It hasn't worked like that. He's had his ups and downs. He's finished guys. He's finished every opponent, but he's had his ups and downs in these fights where it may not go his way and he has to readjust, change his game plan, and get it done. Now, Carlston Harris, like I said, as much as I'm a big fan of him and he's got me paid, the Christian Aguilera win, so what? Appreciate it for the money I made off that. The Impa Kasanganay fight, so what? Appreciate it, but still not good enough. Christina Aguilera and Impa Kasanganay are not going to prepare you for Shavkat Rakhmonov. And the training, the consistency in the training, the 7 years of youth, the fact that Carlston Harris is really, going to be at a reach disadvantage per topology, and they're going to be the same size. I wonder how this is all going to really play out to his game plan, because he's been kind of picking on smaller fighters as of recently. Impa Kasanganay, bit of a small guy. Even though he's fighting at middleweight, he really looked tiny against Carlston. Christian Aguilera really looked small against Carlston. We want to talk about that. Michel Pereira definitely didn't look like he didn't belong in their height, size at all with Shavkat. But these guys are more experienced fighters with a lot more tools. Alex Oliveira and Michel Perez versus, Impa and Christian Aguilera. I think if I put 2-on-2 in a cage to fight to the death, Shavkat's opponents are going to come out alive. Love Harris's danger factor, but I'm going to go with Shavkat Rakhmonov. I love that the line is staying at this minus 240, minus 250. I saw it minus 225 recently. Keep it right there, because I'm going to drop a hammer on Shavkat Rakhmonov. I think he's probably one of the most important parlay pieces this week, and we got to go with the Nomad. Moving up to the co-main event of the evening, I'm very surprised Punahele Soriano and Nick Maximov are going to be the co-main. UFC must really like this Nick Maximov guy. Put up a pretty impressive fight there against Cody Brundage. It was back and forth, but he was the rightful winner. He out-scrambled Cody Brundage, but Cody Brundage also hasn't really looked that impressive, right? He's definitely not an amazing win. And he beats this heavyweight guy that he did take the fight on short notice, but definitely not impressive either. Now, Punahele Soriano, man, he really dropped the ball for me when I had money on him against Brendan Allen. And Brendan Allen schooled him, man. Really took him to town with the striking. All those things you wouldn't imagine. I just did not like the way he looked. And over the course of some of these fights that I was watching, he doesn't look the best as the fight goes later on. But just that, the factor that he can finish people with a touch of his hands, it has been special. But, Punahele's not used to losing. Coming off a loss to Brendan Allen, I feel like it's going to do wonders for his career. I feel like he's going to bounce back. And Nick Maximov is not the second coming of someone who's going to be extremely spectacular to me. The competition level is very low. As you can see, his last two fights, he was coming off some pretty good finishes prior in his MMA career. And then now he's gone up to these levels. These are decision fights now. Is he going to finish Punahele? No. Does Punahele, to me, have the ability to finish Nick Maximov? Possibly. We'll have to check on the durability. But I do like this situation for Punahele Soriano. I mean, I feel like he's dealing with a lot of grapplers on a regular basis over there at Extreme Couture. I believe the training is legitimate. The 76-inch reach advantage, to me, is very interesting. I wonder how accurate that is. But we got a 24-year-old Nick Maximov going up against Punahele, and I feel like the power is going to be too much for the young guy here. And as much as this is a no bet for me, I really want to see how Punahele is going to bounce back after losing, a previous wager for me. But we'll see. I'm going to take Soriano first-round knockout. There isn't too much to really tape study on Nick Maximov, but a one fight with Cody Brundage, which, he showed it, like, a bit of his striking, but it was so much of a scramble fest. You really couldn't really open the door and see how much Maximov has to offer. But the grappling is pretty good. It's definitely elite level grappling, and we're going to see if he can implement that on Soriano. Even if he'll have the strength to physically bang around in there. I know he was rolling around with a heavyweight, but that guy definitely wasn't conditioned on the floor. So Punale Soriano, initial pre-weigh-in, I'm going to take him second round KO. Now, to the main event of the evening, we got Jack the Joker Hermansson versus Sean Tarzan Strickland, a.k.a. the Las Vegas Psychopath. But despite all that stuff and noise outside the octagon, boy can fight. Stays in your face, pumps the jabs, combinations, great takedown defense. I feel like Jack Hermansson's getting slept on a little bit. I feel like, especially the fact of, him coming off a good victory here he had against Edmund Shabazian, who to me is actually a bigger physical animal and probably a more powerful striker than Sean Strickland. And he did lose the first round and started to taper off. Now, you're looking at Jack Hermansson, he's win one, lost one, win one, lost one over the last few years. And you really wonder, well, where's the improvement here? He's still so nasty with the grappling. And you just wonder to yourself, is Sean Strickland prepared to fight that type of fight? Because he's been in there with a bunch of guys that have been wanting to strike with him. And Uriah Hall, striker, Christoph Jocko, a bit of an all-around fighter, but mostly strike-oriented. Brendan Allen could have went for the takedown, wanted to strike, and, got put out. Jack Martian, striker. So, and then we look over here. Jack Hermansson's fighting Souza, wins. He's fighting Cannonier, loses. Well, that's a top middleweight. He fights Calvin Gastelum, wins. Loses to Marvin Vettori, top middleweight. Jack Hermansson, it's hard to have his record may have looked the way Sean Strickland's record looked based on the recent opponents. He's just been in there fighting the top guys over the past few years, and he's been alternating wins. I don't believe Jack has the tools, but I don't think we can just be so dismissive of what type of tools he has. He does have the ability to get Sean Strickland down. Do not get that twisted. He does have the ability to control, spend a bunch of control time, and keep Sean Strickland down. To me, though, this is a 5-round fight, and I just feel like you're not going to put away Sean Strickland unless you knock him out. And I don't see Jack knocking him out, and I think Sean Strickland will be able to avoid getting strangled here by Hermansson, and I think he wins a closer decision that you'll imagine. 48-47, down to the last championship rounds, even though this ain't for a championship, but down to rounds 4 and 5. And I wouldn't be surprised if Sean Strickland may be down going into rounds 4 and 5 and he pulls it out late. I'm going to go Sean Strickland by decision, but a really tough fought, drawn out war where Jack Hermansson may be at the point in the 5th round, like, what do I got to do to get rid of this zombie? And him just peppering him, continue to pepper him. So without further ado, Sean Strickland, 48-47, and he continues his ascent, and we'll see, maybe he gets a big opportunity coming up shortly against maybe the champion. You never know, there could be a fill-in spot next week, but I think this fight will be pretty drawn out. I don't feel like he'll be able to just turn around and fight next week, but Sean Strickland for the win. This was the UFC Hermansson versus Strickland breakdown. Look out for the post-weigh-in show that will be dropping Friday. And I'm glad to have you guys back. It's been a week off, and let's make some money and kill these bookies. This is Southpaw Picks. Catch you later.